I was recently in a big city, and it got me thinking about the 1920s and the parallels to today. So let's just jump right into it. So in the 1920s, in the beginning of the 20s, the car was a big thing. People, it was new, it was novel. People could just start buying them. By the end of the 20s, they were building highways, the famous Route 66. Now think of how much the automobile has changed our life. I don't have to explain that. There are a lot of emergent technologies that are coming out of right now that will change things drastically in 100 years. One of them that I think of is, off the top of my head, is the Optimus 3 robot. When I was in this big city, I happened to stop by a Tesla dealership, and they had one on display, and it's amazing. It can do everything that we can do, and they're going to make them cheap, and they're going to be mass produced, and it's going to drastically change our way of life. So basically the car and the robot are on some sort of parallel connection. They're going to be altering for all of humanity, and in ways that probably we cannot even foresee right now. I'm sure that in the 1920s they didn't imagine being stuck in gridlock traffic, right? The next one is electricity. By the end of 1929, most people had electricity. Now, in the beginning of the 20s, it wasn't everywhere. The cities were really the first to kind of get it. They became this epicenter of subways growing there, skyscrapers, all because of electricity. Now, I know there's still places that don't have electricity throughout the world and are in our country, but this was another emergent technology that drastically changed humanity. Imagine not being able to power your fridge. I don't even need to get into that, but something parallel to that is AI. I'm trying to wrap my head around AI and what it's going to become, but you can train the algorithms to do certain things. For example, I get up to go to the bathroom, and it's already made 1,000 stock exchanges by the time I'm done in the bathroom. So AI is kind of this parallel with the electricity of how it's going to change everything. Now, here's another one that's really big that you can see probably right off the top of your head is credit. So in the 1920s, check this out, 70% of goods were bought on credit. Before then, people were kind of leery of it and worried that when the bill came due, things wouldn't work out. But in the Roaring 20s, that fear was abandoned. Buy now, pay later, and we'll see what happens with that when 1929 comes around. The stock market crash. The same thing as today. I had some cash in my wallet before I had a credit card, and I didn't want to get a credit card for a long time, and I couldn't buy anything with it. Everything was cashless. I couldn't buy food at the airport because they only took digital form of currency, right? So this cashless society that is on its way, that it's already here, and also if you think of how much debt the United States is in, and your average person, how much debt do you have, right? If something were to happen when the bill came due, would you face your own mini Great Depression? Or will we face it on a societal scale? Once again, back to that thing of humanity being cyclical motions, it's highly likely that we will experience a Great Depression or some sort of economic restructuring within the next 10 years. I would bet that would be something that's happening, especially with what's going on in our financial system now. Go to the grocery store, right? The next one is stocks. Everybody really was getting into stocks. You can buy speculative stocks for a fraction of the cost, and this is really the big thing that causes the Great Depression. You don't have $100 to put into your Tesla stock? Hey, no problem. Just buy it now for $10, and you can pay it when your stock goes up or when you get the money. And there wasn't any regulations on Wall Street, so Now with our Wall Street regulations, not that that changes anything. I mean, there are, look at Nancy Pelosi's. If you want to be a good stock trader and you want to know what stocks to buy, it would behoove you to buy what she buys, right? Insider trading is still a thing. There's people gaming Wall Street. They're at pump and dump. And that brings me into crypto. They have various crypto coins that are pump and dump schemes. I think that there's, what's the one? The Haktua coin. You pump it up, you inflate the value of this, and then you sell it out real quick. Crypto is another one. If you bought cryptocurrency, I think last month it was like up to 120 or something like that. It's so volatile that you can really lose your shirt. Some people will go out there and remortgage their home to buy crypto. The same kind of parallel existed in the 1920s. They would take out a loan, get a large amount of credit, and when the bill came due, it was the end of that. Another one that's really big is a major change in social norms regarding gender roles, right? We have the whole they, them thing going on and whatnot. But in the 1920s, women really, they got the right to vote. They cut their hair short. They smoked. It was kind of a social and sexual revolution. And it drastically changed the landscape of marriage and dating, and that had repercussions that trickle on to 100 years later. Now we have kind of this similar thing. There is online dating apps, and I don't even know. It's a different, there's so many different changes that have existed from our traditional role of, getting married at 19 or 20 or even 16 being old Italian to what it is today. A lot of that has its roots in the 1920s and the social revolution. The next one is radio. Radio became a big thing. People were buying it, listening to it at night. It was the TV at the time, and it could dictate trends, advertisements. Everybody could listen to the same baseball game. It became this unifying social experiment, which shaped the landscape from pop culture to fashion to collective thought, right? Think of how many political institutions came out of the 1920s that are bolstered by continuous radio broadcasts. Well, we have the same thing today with social media. It is drastically changing the way that people become more polarized, right? People become, I think of how many commercials you get. It's basically the radio of its time, and it's pervasive. Everybody has some sort of social media presence. I mean, I'm making a video on YouTube, right? So anyway, I don't want to make my video too long, but I just wanted to make a point that the 1920s was a major herald of change, a technological revolution, which seemed to spur this roaring era of spending and excess and trying to find a balance between the old and the new. We are on that exact same trajectory. Now, will we have another economic crash like in the 1929? I don't know. I know we have a lot of debt, but I know that things that are happening now are going to resonate 100 years from now. Me seeing a robot for the first time in a Tesla dealership will be just as synonymous with some guy in the early 20s seeing his first automobile. They will be everywhere. My grandchildren will probably have a couple of robots, and who knows what the work week will look like and how the landscape will change. Anyway, I hope you're doing well, and keep an eye out for emerging trends that will definitely change humanity within this decade.